How you doing? I'm Big D. I'm just checking for my connections to be active. Uh, Looks to be that I have good audio. So the show is DJT Militia. I'm going to be talking about in this show and all and everything in the future. It could be everything from the Biden regime, Donald J. Trump. Could be about silver, the BRICS nations, world news, just about anything. And if you would like, you can find my email in the description. And if you would like to also be a guest on the show, let me know what the topic is. We can both research it and we can have you on as well. I have a reoccurring guest on John, aka Boiling Point. My bad. Let's go with John, aka Propane. I have a lot on my mind today. This is a new software. I'm trying to get used to it, as well as my first time multi-streaming with Rumble and YouTube. Hopefully, everything will go well. So, going forward, if you would like a topic researched, we have a few people that are helping out the show, and we can put it out to the group and see what we can come up with. We've done that in the past before in my other show that YouTube had removed. So please like, share, subscribe. Like I said, this is a very new show. I'm going to need support going forward, and it does help the show. Please like, share, subscribe. I hope you like what you're about to see and get some information about probably something that you haven't heard before. Because lamestream media, they don't like to give the truth. Some of the things that you may have heard about Micron moving into a very small town in central New York, just about maybe 10 miles north of Syracuse, New York, if you know where Syracuse is. Bringing a large company like that into a very small town is going to be great for the town and for the state. And it's going to help moving forward with chips that are needed in many different aspects. Could be a laptop, an automobile, electric cars, your cell phone, just about anything you can think of electronic. We're having issues with supply from one of the main suppliers of the world with different chip configurations, and that would be China. But Chuck Schumer, he's always into anything that he can make a buck at. Not that I'm saying he's corrupt, but Micron gets $6.1 billion in federal chip funding, which that's a lot for a company. But then again, Micron is putting in supposedly $100 billion of their own money. Now that's how you can come up with an idea how big this complex is going to be. They've already spent some money purchasing land in the area, along with homes that have acreage. One comes to mind, and it was $1.3 million, and I believe it only had 35 acres. An old home that they demolished. They dismantled it first and then demolished it. Leveled the land. It's going to be a lot of money spent, but was that home with that 35 acres really worth $1.3 million? Would have been nice if I were the owner. That would have been pretty cool. But it just seems like overkill. So the 6.1 billion for Micron is another indication that the Central New York's project is progressing. I don't believe that's a way to tell or judge progress. But there is already infrastructure changes that have changed the area where for at least a year now, they have been changing roadways and bridges and I mean, huge changes, not just, very light, resurfacing roads. It's not like that. This is actual adding bridges, adding roadway, major construction that's going on in many parts of the Central New York area. But New York's portion of the funding will be used to support the construction of Micron's first 2 chip fabrications in Onondaga County. Before Micron gets the federal funding, the Department of Commerce will complete a review of the company's application and proposed project. When that process is complete, the department will finalize the financial award. This is one of the largest single direct federal investments in Central New York's history. Schumer said in the statement, a whopping $6.1 billion from my chips and science law is coming to ensure Micron builds its cutting-edge chip manufacturing fab right here in both Central New York and Idaho. Now, the Chips and Science Act, which includes $52 billion to boost domestic semiconductor chip manufacturing, was approved by Congress and signed by President Joe Biden. I use that word president very loosely. Now, he signed this back in 2022. Now, the supporters include Schumer, U.S. Senator Kristen Gillibrand, and former U.S. Representative John Katko, who represents Central New York. Katko broke the House of GOP leadership to vote for the bill. 2 months later, Micron announced it would construct a massive semiconductor chip manufacturing facility in town of Clay, which is in Onondaga County. The project, which creates 9,000 jobs at the chip fab and more than 40,000 construction and supply chain jobs. Biden visits the Syracuse area after Micron revealed its plan to invest $100 billion over the next 20 years. Other companies have been awarded CHIPS and Science Act funding, including federal Global Foundries and Intel. Global Foundries is eligible to get $1.6 billion in loans and $1.5 billion in grants to build a chip manufacturing facility in Saratoga County. The preliminary agreement between Micron and Commerce Department is another sign of progress for the project. Micron plans to begin construction in 2025. To all those who have had their doubts and beliefs about Micron, Micron is real, Schumer said. And now, with billions in federal investments from my chips and science law, we are taking the next step to get shovels in the ground to transform the Syracuse region and all of upstate into a global hub for the chips that will power America's future. I don't know if you have anybody out there has a occupation where you've had supply issues. where maybe you were in the automotive field and it's very difficult to receive an ABS module or an ECM. ECM is what controls an automobile. It's engine management control. ABS is a braking control module that controls the ABS systems, and also traction control and stability control. I want to also share many other things today. The next is there's been a lot of talk about our infrastructure. Is this going to be able to handle, especially in the area like Clay, which is central New York, and it's not a very big city, Syracuse, by the way, but Clay being about 10 miles north of Syracuse is just a very small town. They're going to have to increase the capability of electricity and water going to the area. They use an immense amount of water. So infrastructure, if they start in 2025, it's going to take years before that building has any employees at all, other than the construction workers. But now, FBI is warning Chinese hackers preparing to launch a massive attack on U.S. infrastructure. Have already infiltrated several critical companies. Now, infrastructure definitely is needed for this project, especially the electrical side and water feed. But can you imagine if something happened to the electrical grid? That would not be a good thing. And it's anywhere throughout the United States. It would be not a good thing. In the summer, you need AC. Some people have to have their areas air conditioned. The older you are, the more you cannot tolerate certain things. That would be a big issue if power went out. Not even thinking about what could happen to the food. Stores and things, they have generators. The average person might have a small generator, but to be able to run everything they need, it might be a little difficult, especially for a long period of time. And if you don't have enough fuel to support that generator from running for a long time, that may be a problem for you, because gas stations without power, they're not going to be able to produce power to run the pumps to fill your gas tank, let alone a gas can, and turn on the power for the cash registers. But Chinese hackers are preparing to launch a major attack on critical U.S. infrastructure and have already infiltrated multiple companies, according to the FBI. FBI Director Christopher Wray revealed today China is developing the capability to cause significant damage to our critical infrastructure at a time of their choosing. The question is the time to launch a catastrophic blow. Whatever happened to this Green New Deal, and it was going to produce so much money for new infrastructure, new electrical grids, new roadways, bridges. Many bridges are 70 to 100 years old. It's not a good sign. Where did this money go? Like I stated, the Biden crime family. I wonder where it went. Now, according to Reuters, Wray went on to note that China's hackers operates a series of botnets, which are constellations of compromised personnel, computers, and severe servers around the globe to hide their nefarious cyber actions. Private actors in America, it's technology and cybersecurity companies previously attributed to Volt Typhoon to China, including reports by security researchers with Microsoft and Google. Some in the US have been using origin tracing of cyber hacking as a tool to hit and frame China, claiming the US to be a victim while it's the other way around, and politicizing cybersecurity issues. Could it be our own CIA or other countries' highly technical groups like a CIA that the United States has start something like this and then they blame it on China? Now, Braggs, he's a prosecutor. He's claimed Trump violated the gag order 7 more times since Monday. And they keep threatening, you keep violating the gag order, Donald J. Trump, and we're going to put you in jail. Well, I think Donald Trump wants to see if they are serious. Because the way I understand it, if Donald Trump is imprisoned, they have to do it in such a way that his Secret Service agents are going to be there because they have to be there, I guess, by law. So I think he's pushing the envelope to see if they're really, truly going to do what they threatened to do. Now, the Manhattan's DA, Alvin Bragg's prosecutors on Thursday claimed Trump violated the gag order 7 more times. Is Trump a badass or what? That is funny. So Bragg's office on Monday asked the court to impose a $1,000 sanction for each of the 3 prior Truth Social posts. Others order Trump to take them down and warn him that further violations would result in jail time. The DA's office was related to a New York Post article bashing Michael Cohen as a serial perjurer. That's been proven. So I don't see why you can't tell the truth. What happened to free speech, especially for our president, our true president? I like this next story. It's a total surrender. Johnson's Ukraine aid package allows Biden to forgive 50% of the loans on December 15th and 100% of the loans to Ukraine later next year. Now, it was on earlier this week that Johnson was negotiating with Biden's regime to introduce a substantial funding package for foreign conflicts and whip up opposition from the Democrats to a motion to vacate him again. Or vacate against him, my apologies. Now, the $95 billion package provides an additional $60.84 billion to address the conflict in Ukraine and assist our region's partners as they counter Russian the counter Russian 23.2 billion, of which will be used for replenishing of the U.S. weapons stocks and facilities. It also provides aid to both Israel and reported Gaza and other conflict zones around the world. We all know that there's no possible way that Ukraine can win against Russia. It is not possible. It's almost like Russia is playing cat and mouse and just lengthening this so the United States is more vulnerable because all of our weapons have been used up. We can't keep giving our weapons away and be able to prepare and protect ourselves and our homeland. That's just the way it makes it looks. What's it look like to me? Now, Bill Barr, he has stated Trump should be in jail in the past for the January 6th so-called insurrection. But he's now changing his tune, and he states that he will vote for Donald Trump for president after he worked diligently to put Joe Biden in office. Says another Biden term is a national suicide. I definitely agree. Yeah, Bill Barr had a lot to say about Donald Trump. That there was no election issues. I'll just say it that way. I can't start off my first show on a new channel and have a possible strike. I can't do that. And Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, by the way, he shows his hands and where his loyalties lie, squarely in the camp of Washington neocons working to advance U.S. towards World War III. And that definitely looks like that's the truth. It's important that American patriots learn the difference between a conservative and a neo-conservative, a liberal and a neoliberal. The difference by honing in on one specific example of a neoconservative working in a position of leadership today, that being House Speaker Mike Johnson. I think we can all agree Johnson is a conservative, but what kind of conservative? Does he focus on the needs and interests of Americans or on the interests of those who benefit from perpetual conflict overseas? Now, when the New York Times puts out an article praising a Republican for his political skills, you know something wicked is on its way. When has the New York Times in the past, say, 35, 40 years, ever stood for anything globally but more war? The Times, along with the Washington Post, serve as the papers of record for New York and Washington elites. New York is home base for the financial elites, and Washington is the home of the military, intelligence, political elites. That is a fact. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson elaborated plans for pushing aid to the Ukraine through the House over his own party's objections, relies on an unusual strategy. He is counting on House Democrats and their leader, Hakeem Jeffries of New York, to provide the votes necessary to clear the way for it to come to the floor. If Democrats were to provide those critical votes, it would mark the second time in 2 years that Republican leaders have had to turn to the majority party to rescue them from their own right-wing colleagues in order to allow major legislation to be debated on a vote. It's just sickening. You see the Democrats, they're always tight. But what about the Republicans? Do they ever stick together? Doesn't seem that way. That's where the little word rhino comes in. Republicans in name only. So the article goes on and talks about the tiny margin of control that Johnson will need their Democrat support for this aid. But before he even gets to that, he will need their votes on a procedural motion known as a rule to even bring the legislation to the floor. An unconventional expectation of the minority party. Now, what they're really saying is that we have a Republican Speaker of the House who was essentially acting as a proxy for the Democrats, helping push Democrat and globalist policies through the Congress. It's also interesting that the Democratic Party used to have a strong element of anti-war sentiment within its ranks, and that element has now been purged. The Democratic Party is now totally controlled by the neoliberal war managers, just as the Republican Party is controlled by the neoconservative warmongers. The clear pattern has come in view. We've seen Johnson previously refuse to provide funding of border security. This would be in American interest. Then he said with the Washington establishment last week to renew funding for warrantless spying on Americans through the secretive STAR, known as FISA, the FISA system. Not in the interest of any free American. Now he's backing away from his commitment not to fund any more Ukraine giveaways. A policy that is leading to more war in the world, not just in Ukraine, and will eventually result in American troops on the ground in various threatened theaters of war. And then you see just a short time ago when Mike Johnson actually visited Mar-a-Lago and met with Donald Trump. What is going on? Well, we know that it's going to be very difficult for Trump to become our president again, not because of real votes, but because of, those other kind of votes. Now, a New York Democrat has been arrested and charged with felony after faking signatures on election petitions, including those of dead people. That's why they do not clean up the voter rolls. The voter rolls go back probably 100 years. And in those 100 years, there is a lot of dead people. Also, that moved out of state. And when you move out of state, you're no longer able to vote in that state that you left. But somehow there are still votes being cast because of those individuals that used to live there. Or illegals somehow are voting or possibly going to be voting. And somehow dead people are from 150 years ago are voting. Must be because they're still on the voter rolls. No signature verification. Whatever happened to Arizona when they came up with when they had the audit of what happened in 2020? I won't get into it too deep. But during that, they found that there were a barcode. Each ballot had a specific barcode. And they found paper that wasn't consistent with a true ballot. And going forward, they found the same barcode over and over again, if you know where I'm going with that. It's shocking. Well, I appreciate you stopping in for my first live broadcast. Streaming, by the way. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification for all. And it does help the show. I really appreciate everybody stopping in. And hope to see you in the future. Unfortunately, for this show, the comment section was not able to go live. But in the future, I am hoping that that will not be the case, and I can have comments where we can discuss what was discussed here. And if you would like to be part of the show and you have a topic that you would like to discuss, or discuss anything, it doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be about silver or Joe Biden regime, Donald Trump. It could be anything. We just have to do some research and see if it would be something that we could put together a show. And again, you will find my email in the description. Have a great day. God bless.